I'm doing good.
Great. How's your day been?
Pretty
Okay.
good.
All right.
Sat down to
Recording
make
to
a
the
bowl
cloud.
and did my usual thing and messed it
Hello,
up.
everyone. Now we're recording to the cloud.
Here we can see his head.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study in the Urantia Book on the ministry of the Primary Supernaphim, paper 27, and we're on section 4, Directors of Conduct. We're going to start right here tonight. Welcome everyone at home. Welcome everyone that's with us. And let's say a quick prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for being with us tonight. And I pray that you open our hearts and minds that we might remember some of this study tonight and share it with others, that they might benefit from this also. We thank you that we might benefit also in our lives and do your will in our lives. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 Hey, dear, do you want to start reading?
Okay.
Or directors of conduct, having already been fully instructed in the ethics of paradise relationships, neither meaningless formalities nor the dictations of artificial castes, but rather the inherent proprieties. The ascendant mortals find it helpful to receive the counsel of the seraphic directors of conduct, who instruct the new members of Paradise Society in the usages of the perfect conduct of the high beings who sojourn on the central isle of light and life.
So, believe it or not, even when you get to paradise, there are directors of conduct to help you from making mistakes, right? So what these beings do is they tell you the ethics and the relationships in paradise of what's proper, what's not. And these directors of conduct instruct us what's the proper usages of things and these new things we're discovering on the Isle of Paradise, and help us kind of fit in better, right? So they really make us our life more harmony, give us harmony in our life, right?
Harmonious.
Is that like
Harmonious.
the moral police they have in Baghdad or something like that?
No, not even close. Not even close. No, that's well, I can't hear you, y'all. Hang on, my cat's tied up in my cables here.
Kiki, sit down. Sit down, baby.
All right.
Sit down. Yeah.
All right, that's
Gotcha.
better. Okay, I should have you back. Anyway. All right, number 2, Pamela, would you take that one, please?
Yes. Harmony is the keynote of the central universe. The detectable order prevails on paradise. Proper conduct is essential to progress by way of knowledge, through philosophy, to the spiritual heights of spontaneous worship. There is a divine technique in the approach to divinity, and the acquirement of this technique must await the pilgrim's arrival on paradise. The spirit of it has been imparted on the circles of Avona, but the final touches of the training of the pilgrims of time can be applied only after they actually attain the Isle of Light.
So they teach us all these things on the different circuits, right? To how to recognize the deities, God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. But the final touches of what we need to know to do it properly awaits us till we get to paradise itself, which is kind of interesting. Think about it, right? So these beings help us fill in the gaps before we actually try to meet God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. Okay, Rodney, I can't get over how good you look, Rodney.
You really do.
I've been looking at you in the fog for so many years. It feels strange, you know? Who is this guy?
Rodney, have you had plastic surgery? A facelift?
Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
So all paradise conduct is wholly spontaneous, in every sense, natural and free. But there still is a proper and perfect way of doing things on the eternal isle. and the directors of conduct are ever by the side of the quote strangers within the gates to instruct them and so guide their steps as to put them at perfect ease, and at the same time to enable the pilgrims to avoid that confusion and uncertainty which would otherwise be inevitable. Only by such an arrangement could endless confusion be avoided, and confusion never appears on paradise.
It sure isn't like Earth then, is it?
No resemblance.
No resemblance whatsoever. All
Oh.
right. So there is no confusion in paradise. And these beings help us stay unconfused. right?
It's free saw. It's a saw designed for cutting trees. It's much better than a regular handsaw for cutting trees.
Are we cutting trees down tonight?
Gary, you're live. We can hear you.
Hold on. Hey, hold on. I'll be next after this. I've got a call right now. Sorry.
All right.
Okay, what do you want? I'm back.
Okay.
What's
Nothing.
now? I'm now.
Okay. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. These directors of conduct, is that where we are?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. These directors of conduct really serve as glorified teachers and guides. They are
I've got a
chiefly
long-handled,
concerned with instructing the new mortal
thing that would do it,
residents
but it would be branched by.
regarding the almost endless array of new situations and unfamiliar
I don't have
usages.
a handsaw.
Gary, could you mute for us for a minute because you're
Sorry.
interrupting the reading?
Sorry.
Notwithstanding all the long preparation, therefore, and the long journey thereto, paradise is still inexpressibly strange and unexpectedly new to those who finally attain residential status.
Okay. We're going to do something different tonight, Jane. You're going to start from the beginning again because I didn't hear any of that. I got bits and pieces.
All right.
I got
It's good.
all of Gary's conversation, but I didn't get any of yours.
Okay,
Do you want me to read it, Jane? Give me a break.
No, let Jane. read
Okay.
it again.
Okay.
Okay. She reads so
Yeah.
well.
So do
These
you.
directors of conduct really serve as glorified teachers and guides. They are chiefly concerned with instructing the new mortal residents regarding the almost endless array of new situations and unfamiliar usages, notwithstanding all the long preparation therefore, and the long journey thereto, paradise is still inexpressibly strange and unexpectedly new to those who finally attain residential status.
So no matter how they try to prepare you, you can't be prepared for paradise, right? So
Cannot imagine.
you can't imagine it, right? So you're going to end up with new and strange situations, and with these new and strange situations, the directors of conduct actually help you prepare and ease your conscience as you're going through this stuff, right?
Do you have any idea when they say new and unusual, strange situations, what we would be put through?
It must have something to do with the paradise citizens, right? And the new beings we're going to meet on paradise are going to probably blow us all away. You know, I mean, probably get to the point where we just cannot believe all the different types of beings and that sort of thing that they introduce us to, right? So
Does this mean we're still imperfect when we reach paradise?
but what's that, Gary? Let's again.
Yeah,
You're breaking up, Latch, believe it or not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Didn't get
My
you. Try
internet.
it one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you
Yeah.
now.
Does this mean that we are still imperfect when we reach paradise?
It sounds
Ah,
something along that line to me, Letch. I would think so, right?
Yeah,
Because it sounds like even though we get there, there's still things that aren't quite perfect, right? I mean, if we have to have directors of conduct. And
Yeah.
Gary, I muted you a while ago when you were talking, so you're going to have to unmute yourself when you're ready to talk again. Okay? No, I can't hear him at all. Yeah, you have to unmute yourself now.
And Roger,
Yeah.
we're not really perfect until we unite with God.
Become finaliters. That's when we are totally perfect, right? So when you
Well-
first get to paradise, you're near perfection, but not 100% because they still have to teach you certain things, right? Make sense?
I
Hey,
see.
Roger, Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
what would be
Tim.
your definition of perfect?
Oh, don't ask me to go there. Tim. Really.
In 2
Roger.
words.
Speak
There's
no
degrees
evil.
of perfection, right?
How about
Different-
Got
how
the
about
answer.
becoming godlike?
Well, that's, yeah, becoming godlike would be our goal of perfection, be perfect even as I am perfect, but reaching that goal is, do
Correct,
you
but just,
ever
in
really
general,
arrive there.
what
Arrive
that,
there?
what it means.
Well, I would say being perfect is being godlike all the time. And in other words, all your actions, decisions, everything in your life is generated through God.
Evolving around the will of God through
Evolving
service
around,
and,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, let's.
Probably,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jane.
it's just a thought. It's a thought. Not only I'm thinking, and I could be way off, not just thinking and wanting and doing the will of God, but actually knowing.
Well, I think we know the will of God the more after we fuse with our adjusters, it becomes innately part of us, right? If you think
But-
about it.
Yeah,
It's-
but then in paradise, I'm trying to get a glimpse of why there is so much, even after billions of years, and now you're in paradise and you still need all this help.
Well,
And so I'm
I think
coming
it's,
from
I
that
think it's
angle.
it's more of like a minor tweaking of our actions, Jane, because we're interacting with beings that we're totally unfamiliar with. I think more like that. It's not so much a personality flaw or anything like that. I think it's more of a training of your personality for the different types of beings you'll be dealing with on
And
Paradise.
probably how to communicate.
Yeah, how to communicate properly and not insult them and that sort of thing, right?
I hope we wouldn't at that point insult
Yeah,
anyone.
I hope we don't. Right. Let's, would you take the next one? Custodians of Knowledge.
okay. The superactive custodians of knowledge are the higher living epistles, known and read by all who dwell on paradise. They are the divine records of truth, the living books of real knowledge. You have heard about records in the book of life. The custodians of knowledge are just such living books, records of perfection imprinted upon the eternal tablets of divine life and supreme surety. They are in reality living automatic libraries. The facts of the universes are inherent in these primary supernaphim, actually recorded in these angels. And it is also inherently impossible for an untruth to gain lodgment in the minds of these perfect and replete repositories of the truth of eternity and the intelligence of time.
So think about it this way. The custodians of knowledge, we've got a picture of them down here. Okay, you see this, they're like living libraries of knowledge. They have every concept and everything that's ever happened in the universe recording in their being. So they're like a living being that can regurgitate any fact about anything that's ever happened in all the universes in an instant.
Simultaneously.
Wouldn't it be great to hook up with one of those?
Yeah, yeah, really. I
Yeah,
mean, talk about blowing your mind, that would really do it, right?
You know, it's amazing you say that because in the Hindu philosophy, they look at the Akashic records as a place where there's like a library, a store of knowledge in heaven, on
Well, if there
heaven.
is such a record, it would be in these guys.
Right, exactly. And
Right.
that's just amazing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
The custodians of record.
exactly. Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Okay, these custodians conduct informal courses of instruction for the residents of the Eternal Isle, but their chief function is that of reference and verification. Any sojourning on Paradise may at will have by his side the living repository of the particular fact or truth he may wish to know. At the northern extremity of the isle, there are available the living finders of knowledge, who will designate the director of the group holding the information sought. And forthwith will appear the brilliant beings who are the very thing you wish to know. No longer must you seek enlightenment from the engrossed pages. You now commute with living intelligence face to face. Supreme knowledge you thus obtain from the living beings who are its final custodians.
Okay, so you can almost think about them as librarians in a sense, right? With the knowledge of everything you could possibly imagine within them. And there's different ones of these that knows which Supernaphim to contact to find that all there is to know about this, that specific subject, right?
Sounds like
If
it.
Sounds
Go
like
ahead,
a
Roger.
huge reference library, right? Right.
If you think about this, it is like the internet, but with absolute truth.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. What a gross comparison that is. When you think about it. All right. Let's keep
That
going.
sounds a little robotic. Like,
Not at all, because these are living beings that can recite their person
impress.
with their personality.
Yeah.
They can tell you the story of it too. You know, these are Supernaphim that even the ancients of days turn to for knowledge of things. So, you know, these guys are pretty smart.
They even have the interpreters.
Yeah.
Remember
they do.
those? That's just incredible, where they can act out scenes.
Yeah. a
Oh,
whole
wow.
scene, yeah. Millie, would you like to take the next one tonight? Are you going to read for us tonight? No?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question. Do they remember all the bad things as well as the good things?
I'm sure they do, Millie. Hey.
If it's fact.
They have to, you know, if you think about it.
Yep.
That worked.
I mean, you can't really describe Hitler. Well, you know, he did this, he did that. He was a nice guy, and not talk about the Holocaust or the other, you know.
Well,
bad
I don't
thing.
think
Right.
Hitler's going to be mentioned when you get to Paradise. Right? He's not going to be in our purvey any longer, you know. He will be with those things that pass away, right?
But aren't you curious? Come on, aren't you curious about World War II? What happened? How did it happen? I
By
wasn't there.
then, we'll take care of all that in the mansion world. That won't be in
Yeah.
Paradise, right?
Tim, you're worried about that now. You're wondering about that now. But when you cross over, I don't think you're going to wonder about that.
I don't
But
think so either.
but they also have historical, you know, artifacts, you know, from on Paradise. I mean, come on, the two towers could be there. You know, I'm sure the Colosseum in Rome.
Well, No, I don't think it's going to be important enough for things like that to be there. They're not spiritually based.
Okay.
Yeah, that I think only spiritually based things would be in paradise, right? I don't think, that would be like saying they set up a shrine to Lucifer after he's gone.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
So what about the Vatican then?
What about the
That's
Vatican?
questionable too, right?
I know.
So let's move on. Millie, would you take the next?
Sorry, I answered the question.
Yeah.
When you locate that Supernaphim who is exactly what you desire to verify, you will find available all the known facts of all universes. For these custodians of knowledge are the final and living summaries of the vast network of the recording Supernaphim of Havana. And this living
You
accumulation.
skipped a line. You skipped a
Okay.
line there, dear.
Recording angels,
There
recording
you go.
ranging from the seraphim and the Sekanophim of the local and super universes to the chief recorders of the tertiary seraphim in Havana. And this living accumulation of knowledge is distinct from the formal records of paradise, the cumulative summary of universal history.
So this is a totally different record, right? Did y'all catch that? So even though you have this vast recording network of angels, Supernaphim, Sekanophim, seraphim, everyone along the way, these are all angels that record everything that happened. These angels have access to all this knowledge, everything that's ever happened, right? So it's like the super angels of the recordings, all right? And they have it in their beings. They don't even have to refer to someone else. They know it themselves, right? They are the epistles of knowledge, all right? Tim, would you take the next one, the wisdom of truth?
The wisdom of truth takes origin in divinity of the central universe, but knowledge, experiential knowledge, largely has its beginnings in the domains of time and space. Therefore, the necessity for the maintenance of the far-flung super universe organizations of the recording seraphim and Supernaphim sponsored by the celestial recorders.
Okay, and we've studied the celestial recorders before. Do y'all remember that?
I had a question. When the revelatories use the word divinity, are they talking about the coordinating quality and unity, or are they talking about truth, beauty, and goodness?
No, they're talking about the divinity of the Trinity there, right?
That's what
they're
unity,
talking about.
The coordinating quality and unity.
Unity
Okay,
of the Trinity itself, God the
Okay.
Father, God the Son, God the
Okay,
Spirit.
thank you.
All right. Okay, Diane, we're back to you, dear.
These primary Supernaphim, who are inherently in possession of universe knowledge, are also responsible for its organization and classification. In constituting themselves the living reference library of the universe of universes, they have classified knowledge into 7 grand orders, each having about 1 million subdivisions. The facility with which the residents of paradise can consult this vast store of knowledge is solely due to the voluntary and wise effects of the custodians of knowledge. The custodians are also the exalted teachers of the central universe, freely giving out their living treasures to all beings on any of the Havana circuits, and they are extensively, though indirectly, utilized by the courts of the ancients of days. But this living library, which is available to the central and super universes, is not accessible to the local creations. Only by indirection and reflectivity are the benefits of paradise knowledge secured in the local universes.
Okay, so these angels, or these Supernaphim, are really only available for paradise in Havana, right? And of course the ancients of days, because they're head of the super universes. But outside of that, this knowledge is reserved for those who make it to paradise, right? And so the 7 super universes this knowledge is not available to them, but it's only available through reflectivity to the divinity who runs the 7 super universes, which would be part of the Ancients of Days, right? And the order of days itself. So, but the general population would not be accessing this until they get to paradise, right?
Yeah, you just answered my question, because I was going to say, the life and teachings of Jesus in part 4, they could have consulted one of these and made it a lot more easier, but it's only on Paradise and Havana that you
It's
can
only
consult
on
with them.
Paradise and Havana. That would be
Okay.
considered a local record, right? Instead of a Paradise record. Okay, so the celestial recorders would be in charge of the local stuff, right?
Do you think they have the same record like we have now in part 4, the life and teachings of Jesus?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Actually, the record of the life and teachings of Jesus came from the recordings of the angel assigned to the Apostle Andrew.
Right.
That's right.
That's where the life of Christ.
The watch
came,
care of Andrew.
The
Yeah.
watch care of Andrew, right? All right, Masters of Philosophy. Let's philosophize and move on. Pam, would you take that one, please? The first one.
Next to the supreme satisfaction of worship is the exhilaration of philosophy. Never do you climb so high or advance so far that there do not remain 1,000 mysteries which demand the employment of philosophy in an attempted solution.
And you thought you were going to be able to be stupid all these years, didn't
Roger,
you?
I put my thinking cap on.
That's right. So you're going to actually have to philosophize, right?
It's
Okay.
amazing because philosophy is broken down as the study of knowledge.
Study of
the
knowledge,
Greek-
logic, right? What's the first
Well-
thing when you start to study philosophy? You take not logic, right? You have to have a logical way of thinking, right? Do y'all remember? I don't know how many of y'all went to college, but when you go to college and you start to study religion and philosophy, the very first class you have to take is what?
Philosophy.
Logic.
Oh, logic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. You have to be able to think to philosophize, right?
That's true.
So the process of thinking is logic, the basics, right? So once you learn logic, then you go on to philosophy and things like that. It's kind of funny too, because a lot of people go through college, never take a single philosophy class,
I took mine in the first year.
yeah. And some of them never take logic. So if they never take logic, they never learn to think logically. And poor old Spock on Star Trek, he would be really disappointed, wouldn't he?
Well, if you have a philosophy major, you can think deep thoughts about unemployment.
That's right. That's right. That's true.
That's right.
All
That's
right.
about true.
So let's move on to the next one. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Let me jump
Yeah.
in here. I have a brother-in-law with a philosophy degree,
Do you?
and he doesn't do well.
Doesn't do well. Well, I have a religion and philosophy degree myself, I have to admit. So, all right.
So the master philosophers of paradise delight to lead the minds of its inhabitants, both native and ascendant, in the exhilarating pursuit of attempting to solve universe problems. These
Superaphic.
masters of philosophy are the, quote, wise men of heaven, the beings of wisdom who make use of the truth of knowledge and the facts of experience in their efforts to master the unknown. With them, knowledge attains to truth, and experience ascends to wisdom. On paradise, the ascended personalities of space experience the heights of being. They have knowledge. They know the truth. They may philosophize, think the truth. They may even seek to encompass the concepts of the ultimate and attempt to grasp the techniques of the absolutes.
So y'all can see this is a stepping stone type thing, isn't it? you know, by being able to think through things and eventually to philosophize. You can think through things to the point where you can understand the ultimate and the absolutes. You know, it's a step-by-step process. And remember when we started, you know, studying the forward, that's basically what we were doing. We were taking basic concepts and we were trying to put those concepts together to come up with a whole, right? And that's what really the forward does, is give you a whole to start out with. And that way, when you study the stuff after you've studied the forward, when you get to those points in the book, you go, ah, yeah, I got that. I remember studying that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. At the southern extremity of the vast paradise domain, the masters of philosophy conduct elaborate courses in the 70 functional divisions of wisdom. Here they discourse upon the plans and purposes of infinity and seek to coordinate the experiences and to compose the knowledge of all who have access to their wisdom. They have developed a highly specialized attitude towards various universe problems, but their final conclusions are always in uniform agreement.
And then interesting that it's a process and they all have the same, they come up to the same concepts, but they have different ways to get there. You know, and it's interesting because they call these men in the previous paragraphs the wise men of heaven, you know? So these are the smart guys, right? All right. So the masters of philosophy are the wise men of heaven, and them teaching us and helping us, then we can become wiser in our decisions and wiser in our concepts.
I like to go up to one and say, hey, what are you, a wise guy?
Yeah. What are you, a wise guy? That's right.
Roger, they must take a very long time because it looks like they leave nothing. They uncover every detail and
every detail of everything, Jane. Everything.
What I'm getting from this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not humanly conscionable to be able to take it all in, you know.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, that's the strange thing about this book. We were talking to a friend about this book this morning, and until you experience it, you really can't explain it, can you? You know, because you start learning from this book in little bits and pieces, you know, along the way, and it builds upon itself, but it takes a long time of study to really get most of the concepts. It really does. It's not something you just read through and get overnight. You know?
I have to work on my patience now.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
Everybody does.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Rodney.
I realize this is in the Hall of Paradise, but is it on the spheres? Where at in the Hall of Paradise?
Oh, well, they're talking about some of the, you know, I'm glad you asked that, Rodney, because earlier in one of these paragraphs, it talks about how what was the previous ones? We were conductors of, here, let me go back up here.
Directors of conduct.
Directors of conduct. No, the custodians of knowledge. That's what I was looking for. They do this stuff. Look at this. At the northern extremity of the Isle of Paradise.
And these up at the southern extremity.
The southern extremity. That's right. So
approach them. I mean,
yeah, apparently you get access to these beings on different parts of paradise, locations on paradise, right? Which is,
they don't explain that.
Yeah, it's interesting in itself, right? All right, so
it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. That's right. It is. All right. The other thing I wanted to bring out that I skipped over is, let's see here. See if I can find it again. how they break these things down into. I skipped right over it and meant to mention it. It was probably in one of the previous paragraphs, how they break it down into thousands and then millions of subdivisions.
Yes.
You know, as you learn this stuff, right? Thousands and millions of subdivisions of knowledge of things that you're studying, you know, which you'd think by the time you got to paradise, you would have it pretty, you know, a pretty good idea of everything. But
Oh, that's the tip of the iceberg.
yeah, it's just the starting point, right? All right,
Rodney, Roger, can you scroll up a little bit to the picture?
right here. This one?
Yeah, now go up a little bit more.
All
think.
right. Yeah,
To the words. And
yeah.
it says 1 hour's instruction on paradise would be the equivalent of 10,000 years
10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
of the word memory methods of Urantia.
So 1 hours of instruction, you would get the equivalent of 10,000 Earth years of instruction.
Have you just thought about this a minute? Okay. If that's true, which I'm not disputing it, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Okay. And this, we're at the end, towards the end of the Ascension plan.
Right.
Now, does that have any indication of what we have to learn as we start out? Because if 10,000 hours in 1 hour,
Right.
and that's fast.
That's fast.
But we're starting out a lot slower, at least I am.
Yeah, well, a lot slower, but even when you just get to the first mansion world, Gary, on the first mansion world, you get a new brain, right?
Oh, that's good, because this one's worn out.
Yeah, well, think about it this way. That new brain retains everything that you're taught. Everything. It's not like our brain. You know how we learn things and then 2 hours later we've forgotten them and then we have to learn them again and then we forget them and then we have to learn them again.
You know, that's the type of brain we should have when we read this book.
That's the point I was going to make. I've been reading this book for 40 some years and I still read it and go, you know, I mean, you know, and I'm not a stupid guy either. So, you know, we do it, we redo it, and we do it, and we do it. And then when we get to the mansion worlds, though, we don't have to do that anymore, right? All right.
You know, they give us a little bit of wisdom in paper 48 where they're going through the Urantia wisdom. Those, you know, 1 through 20 something. Remember those?
Right. Okay, let's see. What paragraph did we? All right, I think we're at the southern extremity. Did we read that, Rodney? Or did
Yes.
we did. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure. I know these guys are at the southern extremity.
No, we didn't read the southern one.
Okay, well, let's read the southern extremity. And I think either Jane or Letch is up. Jane, did you just read?
I just read.
Okay, Letch, you're up.
The northern.
Okay. At the southern extremity of the vast paradise domain, the masters of philosophy conduct elaborate courses in the 70 functional divisions of wisdom. Here they discourse upon the plans and purposes of infinity and seek to coordinate the experiences and to compose the knowledge of all who have access to their wisdom. They have developed a highly specialized attitude towards various universe problems, but their final conclusions are always in uniform agreement.
Did you notice it says here 70 functional divisions of wisdom?
Wow.
70. You know, I couldn't come up with 70 functional divisions of wisdom if I had to, you know.
What are they talking about? 70 functional divisions
of wisdom.
What is that? Like a book or like?
No, that wisdom itself is divided into 70 functional divisions, and who knows how many subdivisions.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, it's just it's
I think
crazy.
I read
and
that one.
And they all come up. Huh?
I think I read that paragraph, but it's like new every time.
I know.
There is,
That's because we just said this, that their conclusions are all uniform, right? At the end of it,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
it's
that's what clued us
so
in.
deep.
know.
Jane did just read this.
Yeah, she
paragraph.
did, but that's okay.
Yeah. But it's
We can,
new
we can,
again.
we can
Yeah.
listen to it twice
Yeah, that's right.
or 3 times.
3 times.
Yes.
All right. Gary, I think you're up next. The Paradise Philosophers.
These paradise philosophers teach by every possible method of instructions, including the higher graph techniques of Havana and certain paradise methods of communicating information. Of all these higher techniques of imparting knowledge and conveying ideas are utterly beyond the comprehension capacity of even the most highly developed human mind. Einstein, nope.
No.
1 hour's instruction on paradise would be equivalent to 10,000 years of word memory methods of Urantia. You cannot grasp such communication techniques, and there is simply nothing in mortal experience with which they may be compared, nothing to which they can be likened.
That's most of that paragraph's in that picture. But the thing it's not is we can't grasp the idea of communicating in these type of techniques because we don't have anything even remotely close to it, right? So it's beyond our, really beyond our human mind comprehension, you know, to learn that much knowledge in that fast time. All right. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Turn it on. The masters of philosophy take supreme pleasure in imparting their interpretation of the universe of universes to those beings who have ascended from the worlds of space. And while philosophy can never be as settled in its conclusions as the facts of knowledge and the truths of experience, yet when you have listened to these primary supernaphim discourse upon the unsolved problems of eternity and the performances of the absolutes, you will feel certain and lasting satisfaction. You will feel a certain and lasting satisfaction concerning these unmastered questions.
So it's interesting to think that even though we get to a certain point in paradise, we're still not that smart, are we? Because there's still mysteries and problems from the absolutes and the ultimate that we have not tackled yet, right? We can't understand. So, you know, there's always, to us, there's always going to be something new to learn. That's just all there is to it. It's hard to even imagine that.
Could this be the thing that divides us from God? The fact that we don't know. There's some things we just don't know.
And we never will know, probably, Gary, right? Because we're not God, right?
Yeah.
That's why God the Father is always going to be what? God
smarter than us.
Yeah.
You know, that's why even higher celestial beings, when they say, you constantly hear them say, we do not know. Even higher intelligences don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if you ever if you ever meet a person that tells you they know everything,
run.
You know they're stupid, right?
Have you ever noticed that these people that know everything are some of the people that don't even try to learn anything? I mean, they just go around.
It's an excuse, isn't it? It's an excuse not to learn, really.
Yes, they just, they're still in their high school years.
Yeah, yeah.
But the funny part is they actually do believe that to be true.
I know, that's what's the sad part about it, right?
Yeah.
I think I've worked for a few of those people down through the years.
You know, Roger, there's even people on YouTube who claim to be Jesus.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, you-
There's nothing in the universe that you haven't heard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Tim, would you take the next one, please?
Okay,
These
these-
intellectual.
These intellectual pursuits of paradise are not broadcast. The philosophy of perfection is available only to those who are personally present. The encircling creations know of these teachings only from those who have
passed through. Yeah.
passed through this experience, and who have subsequently carried this wisdom out to the universes of space.
Now, how would they carry the wisdom out to universes of space? Because we become finaliters, right? What happens when we become finaliters? We go back out to the super universes, right? Teach those who are coming along. Makes
We're
sense?
we're recycled.
We're recycled. That's right. So these paradise broadcasts are not broadcast out to the general 7 super universes. Okay. All right, Diane, you're up again.
7, Conductors of Worship. Worship is the highest privilege and the first duty of all created intelligences. Worship is the conscious and joyous act of recognizing and acknowledging the truth and fact of the intimate and the personal relationships of the creators with their creatures. The quality of worship is determined by the depth of creature perception and as the knowledge of the infinite character of the gods progresses. The act of worship becomes increasingly all-encompassing until it eventually attains the glory of the highest experiential delight and the most exquisite pleasure known to created beings. Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's
worship,
beautiful.
yeah, it really is beautiful. It also points out the fact that worship is what? It's unique with every individual. No two beings will ever experience worship exactly the same way. Okay, so that
Now-
makes it intimate and personal, right?
Personality.
Yeah, it depends on your personality. That's exactly right. And the worship of creatures with their creators is even more personal if you think about it, because each and every being comes from what? A different local universe, right? Each and every creator son is what? Unique, right? So a creature coming from a different local universe will approach worship in a totally different way than another being from the same local universe. And
Would
so
you say relationship too has something to
the
do with that?
relationship has a lot to do with your creator, right? So that passes on as you go up through the progression to paradise. You retain those uniquenesses that you develop over time, and it plugs right into worshiping God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit, right? That uniqueness, you retain that uniqueness from your origins. Make sense?
Wouldn't you also say that worship is also related to expressing that love for the Father, then
And it's your
receiving it?
relation. That's right. Your relationship with God, your relationship with Jesus, your relationship with God the Father, and all deities that you associate with all the way up, right? And it's interesting that they say here that the worship becomes increasingly all-encompassing until it eventually attains the glory and the highest what? Experiential delight and most exquisite pleasure known to created beings.
You know,
That's ecstasy, right?
what you were just saying is all an individual relationship between man or the worshiper and God.
Right.
Okay. Which to me kind of says this group worship stuff that, like going to church is not needed, not valid, it's
Really, Gary,
a
it's
man
not.
thing.
We do it to bolster each other up. That's the only reason, as brothers and sisters. That's why people go to church, because they call it worship, but it's really not worship in the sense of a personal worship with God the Father, is it? It's more of a group worship or a brother and sister relationship worship than the individual worship, because you can individually worship at home much better than you can in a group.
So you could call church an assembly, but I feel that
An
church is
assembly.
good for you. It has good health benefits for
It
you.
has great benefits. You develop moral character. You need to send your children to church and Sunday school and that sort of thing so they can develop morals in their life, right? That's where it becomes important, right? But for individuals, your worship is personal. It is. It always has been, always will be. You worship with others to experience the joy and ecstasy of the relationship with other beings worshiping at the same time as you do, right?
I
So
wish I
once,
could
yeah.
find a good church.
Yeah.
I've
If you can
looked and
find
looked
a church
for
you can worship in, that's
So
That's-
once again, it's relationship, and it's related to how people express that worship. Some Catholics may need art, I'm not saying they worship statues, but just something there, maybe a
every
cross
worship
to hold on
experience
to.
is different.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
And
different.
there's no
Yeah.
judgment zone here with me. I'm totally respectful of people's,
Yeah.
Same here.
habits.
However,
do-
anyone wants to
uh,
worship, they're welcome to me. I mean, that's the way I
Yes.
look at it.
But what I think is so wrong is when you have other Christians downing other Christians saying that Catholics aren't Christians. I hear that a lot lately on YouTube.
No, it's because we worship statues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
that's-
I was attending a church online not too recently, I was like, Catholics are Christians too. Oh, Catholics worship Mary, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't say nothing.
yeah.
I didn't have the education. Like, okay, I can research that, but what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Tim, I was told by an elderly couple that they were praying for their friends and what religion was I? And I said, well, I was born Catholic. And they said, Catholics are not Christian.
Yeah,
And I said,
mhm.
you know what? They were the first Christians.
That's
Yeah.
right.
First
That's
church-
right. And they have a
first church
huge
was
history.
Catholic. That's right. Yeah.
Huge history.
Turned into the Catholic Church. So,
Mhm.
okay, well, let's keep going. Yeah,
let's keep
Jane, did you have something to say too?
It was only a comment more than nothing big, but I do find that you are right, like meditation, individual worship is in the relationship and transports us somewhere. But I find when I worship with a group of from the heart through music,
Mhm.
I find it certainly transports me elsewhere.
There's a joy and ecstasy there you
Yeah.
can't get anywhere else.
They call
Right.
they refer to it as
Yeah.
group worship,
Yeah.
which is
Mhm.
acceptable.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Who's up next? I think Pam's up next. While the Isle of Paradise.
While the Isle of Paradise contains certain places of worship, it is more nearly one vast sanctuary of divine service. Worship is the first and dominant passion of all who climb to its blissful shores, the spontaneous ebullition of the beings who have learned enough of God to attain his presence. Circle by circle, during the inward journey through Havona, worship is a growing passion until on Paradise, it becomes necessary to direct and otherwise control its expression.
Okay, so its expression gets so big that it has to be controlled,
Wow.
right?
Or will be an embarrassment.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. This is
Carried away.
really interesting. They get really carried away, right? Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. The periodic, spontaneous, group, and other special outbursts of supreme adoration and spiritual praise enjoyed on Paradise are conducted under the leadership of a special corps of Primary Supernaphim. Under the direction of these conductors of worship, such homage achieves the creature goal of supreme pleasure and attains the heights of the perfection of sublime self-expression and personal enjoyment. All primary Supernaphim crave to be conductors of worship, and all ascendant beings would enjoy forever remaining in the attitude of worship, did not the chiefs of assignment periodically disperse these assemblages. But no ascendant being is ever required to enter upon the assignments of eternal service until he has attained full satisfaction in worship.
So until you reach the goal of full satisfaction in your worship, you're not required to take any assignment on, right? That's why you went to paradise, right? Yeah.
So basically, we're going to be Pentecostals.
I know. I can't help. You know, I was
running around.
Randy was reading
speaking in tongues.
that paragraph. All I
Oh
can
my
think
God.
about is how many times I've been in Pentecostal churches and people get to the point where they start speaking in tongues. And,
Oh my
you know,
God.
Oh, yeah.
and been there, done that. I'll know all
Yeah.
about it and all that stuff. And
Emotional outbursts.
I have to tell you, there are a few today, even in some Catholic churches.
yeah, that
You
still
should,
do that.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
boy,
yeah.
their
But it's-
whole body dances.
Yeah, that you get into that spiritual joy to the point of it's like they say, you know, it's the highest feeling of sublime expression and enjoyment in your life.
There are some benefits to speaking in tongues. Science has proved it. If you're a neurologist, if you get a chance, read a book. This is my favorite book called How God Changes Your Brain. And he's taken nuns, he's taken Pentecostals.
Honestly, I have to inject
I know,
this.
yeah.
I don't believe in speaking in unknown tongues. Okay, that's something from the Pentecostal church. Personally, that's not my thing. Right? I grew up in some of my life in a Pentecostal church, and I know all about that stuff being, you know, baptized in the Spirit and all this thing. All these things have been explained to me now, so my attitude towards the whole thing has changed. When on Pentecost, y'all need to understand this, on Pentecost, when the apostles spoke in tongues, they spoke in tongues that they were familiar with, okay, to all the different beings. They never spoke in unknown tongues, and that's the way it's interpreted in the Bible.
Correct.
Right? That's the way it's interpreted in the Bible, which is not, I'm sorry, it's not correct. Okay, so that is not speaking in tongues. What they were talking about is the apostles preached in the languages of those who were there that they could speak in to those that would understand them, so that every tongue in that period of time was preached the gospel in people's own tongue. That's what
Exactly.
That's what it was.
Yeah, some
And what
scholars. Yeah.
So that's important to understand. We don't want to put out there that number one, that this group believes in speaking in unknown tongues and all this stuff. That's not the case at all.
Some scholars have interpreted unknown tongues as you will be speaking in foreign languages. How else would the gospel be preached? Just in the Galilean Aramaic, language, or Hebrew, but in Greek and all over across the world. So an unknown tongue would be a foreign language. I mean, that was unheard. That was unheard of for a Jewish man to do that.
I thought we'd finish this tonight, but we're not going to get through it, are we?
You can stop us, and we could just read.
Well, do y'all want to finish this paper tonight? We could.
In 2 minutes, I don't think so.
I don't think we're going to make it. I hate to have a really short meeting next time, but that's what we're going to end up having unless we have a lot.
Why don't we go a few minutes longer, Roger, and finish it?
Yeah, we could, because this is pretty straightforward. I don't have to explain much if y'all want to do that.
We don't interrupt.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's go on then. Jane, would you take, I think Jane, you're up on the next one.
Okay, and are we in the
While the Isle of Paradise? No.
Why?
No, we're not. We're
I
we're
thought
on the
it was
last. It is the task of the conductors of worship.
Yeah, he just read the periodic. Rodney read that.
Right.
Yes, it is the task. No?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. It is the task of the conductors of worship so to teach the ascendant creatures how to worship that they may be enabled to gain the satisfaction of self-expression and at the same time be able to give attention to the essential activities of the paradise regime. Without improvement in the technique of worship, it would require hundreds of years for the average mortal who reaches paradise to give full and satisfactory expression to his emotions of intelligent appreciation and ascendant gratitude. The conductors of worship open up new and hitherto unknown avenues of expression so that these wonderful children of the womb of space and the travail of time are enabled to gain the full satisfactions of worship in much less time.
Did y'all catch that? Hundreds of years it would take if we weren't taught how to worship properly. All right, let's keep going. Let's, would you take the next one?
Okay. All the arts of all the beings of the entire universe, which are capable of intensifying and exalting the abilities of self-expression and the conveyance of appreciation, are employed to their highest capacity in the worship of the paradise deities. Worship is the highest joy of paradise existence. It is the refreshing play of paradise. What play does for your jaded minds on earth, worship will do for your perfected souls on paradise. The mode of worship on paradise is utterly beyond mortal comprehension, but the spirit of it you can begin to appreciate even down here on Urantia, for the spirits of the gods even now indwell you, hover over you, and inspire you to true worship.
So that's the highest thing we can do in paradise is worship, right? And we can begin to understand it and enjoy it even here on earth. That's what's the main point of that, right? All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
There are appointed times and places for worship on paradise, but these are not adequate to accommodate the ever-increasing overflow of the spiritual emotions of the growing intelligence and expanding divinity, recognition of the brilliant beings of experiential ascension to the eternal isle. Never since the time of Grand Fonda have the Supernaphim been able fully to accommodate the spirit of worship on paradise. Always is there an excess of worshipfulness as gauged by the preparations thereof. And this is because personalities of inherent perfection never can fully appreciate the tremendous reactions of the spiritual emotions of beings who have slowly and laboriously made their way upward to paradise glory from the depths of the spiritual darkness of the lower worlds of time and space. When such angels and mortals of time attain the presence of the powers of paradise, this occurs the expression of an accumulated motion of the ages, a spectacular
Spectacle.
a spectacle astounding to the angels of paradise and productive of the supreme joy of divine satisfaction in the paradise deities.
Now you know why there's so many different types of beings in the 7 super universes, don't you? Because the paradise citizens can appreciate clawing their way up from where we came from and our appreciativeness to the paradise deities themselves, because they have not experienced that, have they? Okay, so that tells you why it's so important that we learn to do these things. All right, let's keep moving. Millie, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Sometimes all paradise becomes engulfed in a dominating tide of spiritual and worshipful expression. Often the conductors of worship cannot control such phenomena until the appearance of the threefold fluctuation of the light of the deity abode, signifying that the divine heart of the gods has been fully and completely satisfied by the sincere worship of the residents of paradise, the perfect citizens of glory, and the ascendant creatures of time. What a triumph of technique, what a fruition of the eternal plan and purpose of the gods, that the intelligent love of the creature child should give full satisfaction to the infinite love of the Creator Father.
So God the Father himself, on the Isle of Light, signifies that he's completely satisfied with the worship of his creatures. What a concept.
Gives me
Amen.
chill.
I know. All right. Tim, would you take the next one?
After the attainment, is that where we're at?
Yes.
Mhm.
After the attainment of supreme satisfaction of the fullness of worship, you are qualified for admission to the core of the finality. The ascendant career is well nigh finished, and the seventh Jubilee prepares for celebration. The first Jubilee marked the mortal agreement with the thought adjuster when the purpose of survive was sealed. The second was the awakening in the Urantia life. The third was the fusion with the thought adjuster. The fourth was the awakening in Havona. The fifth celebrated the finding of the Universal Father. The sixth Jubilee was the occasion of the paradise awakening from the final transit slumber of time. The seventh Jubilee marks entrance into the mortal core finality, into the mortal finality core, and the beginning of the eternity service. The attainment of the seventh stage of spirit realization by a finality will probably signalize the celebration of the first of the Jubilees of eternity.
So that goes over the 7 Jubilees of an individual.
What do they mean by Jubilee? What is that?
That's like a marking point or a celebration point for each thing that's happened to you. And it starts from your death and you're awaking into the Urantia life.
Wow.
Right?
It's kind of like a baptism.
Like a baptism. And the final one is when you the seventh when you enter the core of finality. Okay, and that will be our 7th. Just like, I don't know if y'all remember, but they talk about the 7 Jubilees of Michael, as he progressed, and his 7th Jubilee was when he was obtained sovereignty of his local universe. Okay, and we can talk about that much later again. Let's go on, finish this page real quick. Diane, would you take the next one, and I'll take the last.
And thus ends the story of the Paradise Supernaphim, the highest order of all the ministering spirits, those beings who, as a universal class, ever attend you from the world of your origin until you are finally bidden farewell by the conductors of worship, as you take the Trinity oath of eternity and are mustered into the mortal core of the finality.
Notice that you have to take an oath when you enter the mortal core of finality, right? To the Paradise Trinity itself. Okay. All right. And then it says the endless service of the Paradise Trinity is about to begin. And now the finaliter is face to face with the challenge of God, the ultimate. That's the next step, right? Presented by a perfecter of wisdom from Uversa. So that's our trip all the way to the mortal core of finality. All right. So
You ever stop and think about it? All the way we're going up to this point is we're being challenged.
right.
Okay. And then we get there, and then we get another one.
we get a new challenge. That's right. We do. It never stops, right?
Do they have vacations that are any at all?
Oh, yeah, all the way up through everything. Yeah, we do. Now, next time we're going to start with the ministering spirits of the super universe. All the ministering spirits we've been studying have been of what? The central universe. Okay, so next time we'll start on the spirits of the super universe, which is the angels that attend to us now, right?
Seraphim.
Seraphim, right? And all the other cores. All right, so let's say a little prayer and we will quit for tonight. We're a little bit, we're not too much over 10 minutes. Jane, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
Okay.
Yeah.
Beloved Father, we give you thanks for this evening. We give you thanks for Roger, for all the time that he takes and the goodness in sharing everything that he has learned. We thank you for enabling each and every one of us to give us the ability to think and to absorb and to share this time together. We pray for everybody who's trying to grow spiritually, is trying to learn this book. And we thank you. We thank you for the Mother Spirit. We thank you for Jesus, Michael of Nebadon. We thank you for the grace you have bestowed on us. And we give praise and glory to your most holy name. Amen.
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 And thank all of y'all at home who join us each week and listen to our videos. We thank you for coming. We'll see you next time. Let's stop the live
Okay.
stream.
Bye.
I'll see you all.
Take care, Gary.
Good night, Gary.
I'll work at it. Thank you.
Yeah.